For decades, the Pittsburgh Steelers have epitomized being a physical football team, but there's a new sheriff in town, and on Sunday, we are looking for the Chargers to bully the bullies.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen, and to make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, the Pittsburgh Steelers have always epitomized toughness, physicality, and a real hard-nosed style of play. The Chargers are trying to emulate that same thing. They're trying to knock the Steelers off of that pedestal and become the new kings of physicality, and they're going to do it in this football game. So we're going to get into that. We got to get into the defense and what the Chargers have to do to control this game, stopping Justin Fields, controlling him when he runs, and get into our game and bold predictions.
I know, we're almost 2-0 on bold predictions. Almost every week, someone gets incredibly close with very, very bold takes. But today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. David, we were coming up with what we thought our keys for success should be, and I thought yesterday you guys had a great discussion, over kind of how these teams are part of a new trend that's coming back around, which is physical teams who run the football, play good defense, and both of these teams really check those boxes. And for the most part, the Chargers have physically dominated the two opponents that have been on their schedule so far. More so against the Carolina Panthers. It happened in the fourth quarter against the Raiders when it kind of started off slow in that game. But now you get a real test in physicality. Now you get maybe an even better defensive front that you're going to be going up against in this one. And I think there's a huge pressure on this Chargers offense and on this offensive line to show that they can meet this physical test. Because, David, they're going up against a team that's known for this, and they're new on the scene. And I think it's an important part of the Chargers getting a win in this game.
It absolutely is. I mean, this has been the message from the very beginning from Jim Harbaugh, having to try to change a finesse football team, a team that's been soft, that's had that kind of outside-in mentality from how they're going to build their franchise, to going from a complete 180 to a physically dominant football team that's going to own the line of scrimmage, that's going to impose their will, that's going to run the rock whether you're good at stopping the run or not. They're here to do what they are going to do, which is be that physical football team from beginning to end. And when you want to be physical, it's all well and good when you're going up against some of those softer teams, but now it's real when you go up against a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who has had that physical identity for a very, very long time. The Chargers are new to this. They're trying to be that bully, be that physically dominant football team, and it starts against those physical teams like the Steelers. So if you want to be physically dominant, you got to do it against the other physically dominant teams in the league. It starts on Sunday.
And I think it'll have a huge kind of emphasis in the trenches, and specifically for the Chargers offensive line, who was awesome last week, and they had, way less that they were going up against. But to me, I don't want to see what this Chargers offense looks like if they don't have a running game, right? Like, it feels like this offense needs its running game to be successful. And that doesn't mean that they can't pass the ball well or that they won't pass that test when it comes. What it means is, even if the passing game looks good, it's just hard for me to imagine this team right now, the way they've won these first couple of games, getting a win against the Steelers and having that not be them running the ball somewhat successfully. And I think it's going to be a scrappy game like that. This is a street fight. This is going to be a slugfest. And I think you just have to find a way in the running game for me. That's one of my big keys. I mean, the Steelers are top 6 in rushing yards per game allowed and yards per carry allowed at 3.7 yards. J.K. Dobbins against the Steelers has been awesome, though. And I think for me, you might want to start tilting the carries in his favor. That's one thing I would like for this game. I know what Gus Edwards brings to the table, and I don't think he's fully physically right. But you might need to give a little bit more to J.K. Dobbins in this one if you want to win, because J.K. Dobbins has averaged 108.7 yards per game against the Steelers in the 3 games he played with the Ravens against them. He's played really well, and the Steelers always have a good defense, right? So far this season, Gus Edwards has 29 carries. J.K. Dobbins has 27. I get it. He's the battering ram. He's the guy that's going to make people not want to tackle him in the fourth quarter and softens things up for J.K. Dobbins. I just think we might need a little bit more J.K. this week.
I get it. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is the more explosive running back here. He's the guy that has brought those, 7 runs of 10-plus yards and those 3 40-plus yard runs. Like, he brings the explosions in the running game that the Chargers haven't had in a very, very long time. And hey, yes, the Steelers have a great run defense, but, J.K. Dobbins has already shown that if he's healthy, he can go make things happen and make plays. And I think when they do run the football, I want them to run at Alex Highsmith. Alex Highsmith is going to be the outside linebacker that's usually going to be over your left tackle, the opposite side of TJ Watt. TJ Watt is an incredible run defender as well as a pass rusher. He's very quick. He utilizes that quickness to get off and shed blocks and make plays against the run as well. So, yeah, you want to beat him up and batter him, but I think if you want to have more success running the football, it is towards that left side and trying to take out Alex Highsmith.
Yeah, if you're going to run at one of those guys, there is an argument, right, to any kind of great pass rusher, which is just like you can make them less effective by just double teaming him off the snap, right?
Yeah.
But having him have to chase down a bunch of plays from the backside is another good way to kind of tire him out too, or get him off his game a little bit. TJ Watt's going to be a problem. You guys talked about it. It's one of the biggest matchups of this game, and the tackles will have to be great. I would love to see somebody on the interior of the offensive line just absolutely shove Cam Hayward's face into the dirt and pancake him about 17 times in this game for the little gut punch he gave Justin Herbert in the last matchup.
Yeah, you think we forgot? We didn't.
No, absolutely not. But one of my keys here, David, seems really simple, but to me, I think it's kind of a golden thing for the Chargers to achieve in this game, and that's just get to 20-plus points.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. To me, this game feels like a game that the first team to 20 is probably going to win. I have all the faith in the Chargers defense in this matchup. I think it's a plus matchup for them. I think the Steelers are a good football team with a below average offense. But they have a really, really good defense that's just behind the Chargers defense in a lot of categories. And again, they're trying to figure out if they're for real too, because they played against a bad team last week, played against a Falcons team trying to figure things out in week 1. But I believe that their defense is good. To me, the Chargers have averaged 24 points per game in this season so far. If they can just get to 20 in this one, I think that'll be enough. And I think if they get to 20, their defense will give up less than that.
Oh, yeah, I'm fully confident in that as well. And I think when you are trying to get to 20 points, it's about exploiting the matchups and the weaknesses that you see in the Steelers defense. So looking at that, their slot corner, Beanie Bishop Jr., is a weakness. Okay, he's allowed 7 receptions on 8 targets for 71 yards. That's a perfect matchup for Ladd McConkey to do a ton of damage. And also the safety, DeMonte Casey. If you're able to scheme some opportunities to go up against him, he's allowed 5 receptions on 6 targets for 102 yards. That's over 20 yards per reception. So try to get your playmakers isolated on those defenders and try to scheme them ways to get open and exploit those matchups on the defensive side.
Maybe even a trick play. Maybe we see the first trick play under the Greg Roman regime. I mean, we saw it work last week for the Broncos. Basically, the only explosive play they had for the entire game was a trick play that, basically was the only way that Bo Nix found any success in that last game. I think, all of those things I think are huge keys in the Chargers winning this game. They're going up against a good defense. It's going, even if you get there ugly, right, you just got to get there. I do think it's a feed Ladd McConkey game, because I think the other thing about these kind of games is when you're going up against a great defense like the Steelers, you're going to need receivers who can make the first man miss, because there's not often not a defender near you when you catch the football. You're not seeing wide open guys. Yeah, of course. When you're going against that pass rush for sure. But I just think that when you have guys like that and you need somebody to break a tackle or make somebody miss to find some positive yardage, to find a big gain, those are the guys that I think they should feed, and they've been feeding all season. Josh Palmer on the injury report, we'll see kind of what his status is and what percentage he's playing at. But this game, I think the Chargers need their defense to come out and play light for sure. Maybe their best defensive effort of the season, because I think that the offense, they need to pick up the offense in this game. I'm not super confident the Chargers are going to, blow up the scoreboard in this one. They need their defense to come through And I think it starts with putting some adversity against this young offense, because it's a really young offense, and Justin Fields can unravel like we've seen with some of the other quarterbacks the Chargers have played, and I think the Chargers absolutely need to get after that this week. So we're going to talk about our defensive keys for success and much more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I know you guys, though, have heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little bit different for you, because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. It's not too late, guys. September 22nd, and then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. This week, the Chargers are going to have to show that they can win as an underdog for the first time. They are still currently 1.5-point underdogs in this matchup. So if you guys like the Chargers to win, I know David does, that is a good bet for you. And also, if you think that Quentin Johnston can stay hot, I love going with anytime touchdown scores, and you can get him right now at plus 360. And all you have to do, just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. David, let's get into our defensive keys for success. And when I was listening to the crossover yesterday, and you guys did a great job on it, one of the things that really stuck out to me was Christopher Carter talking about the young offense that Pittsburgh has, because Steelers have not been winning these games on the back of their high-powered offense. Let's just be straight, right? This is an offense, they told us that Russell Wilson was going to be the starter, right? And that he had won the quarterback position between him and Justin Fields. Yeah, Russell Wilson, not sure he's going to be back this week. I mean, he doesn't look like he's going to be back this week, at least from the videos that have been out there about him. So it's going to be Justin Fields again, who brings his own totally, it's hard because these are two totally separate game plans you have to make, right? So for Justin Fields, the game plan is totally different than it would be for Russell Wilson, a veteran like that. But I think it's just make the Steelers face adversity, right? Because Christopher Carter told us, I don't know how this offense is going to really react if they are facing that adversity, because they've been winning pretty much this whole season. They haven't spent much time trailing in this game or in any of these games so far. Justin Fields is another quarterback that can unravel, force penalties, and capitalize on them. The Steelers have the second most penalties so far in the league. They've lost 138 yards and penalties over 2 weeks, right? Those are the ways I think that you can get them behind the sticks, force them into situations where they're uncomfortable. Yes, Justin Fields might make a couple of plays here and there, but if you can really wrap it up and also be able to capitalize on the penalties, because this is a team that'll make some mistakes, I think that's a great way to win this game.
And of course, the best way to have them have to deal with adversity is having to come back from behind. So that means the Chargers getting up early on offense and really trying to force the Steelers and Justin Fields to have to throw the football a whole lot more than their game plan is intending him on doing so. So that's 100% what you want to do. And you want to heat them up. Obviously, the Chargers have one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and Justin Fields is only hitting at 50% when he is under pressure. And so that's not a great number. And last week, the Denver Broncos were able to pressure him 12 times on 26 dropbacks. So they got a ton of pressure on him, and they don't have the best pass rush in the NFL, okay? I would say that the Chargers are up there with some of the best as far as their edge rushers with Derwin James, with Morgan Fox. They have a lot of different guys that can get after the quarterback. So heat up Justin Fields, but also do it in a controlled manner, because Justin Fields is extremely dangerous, especially when he scrambles. When he scrambles, he has 8 scrambles for 55 yards through 2 games. So you have to make sure and be disciplined. Don't let him get away, because he can definitely hurt you on his feet.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 40 rushing yards per game so far, and that is, might not seem like a lot, but for a quarterback, that's a lot. That's something that you have to be aware of when it's Justin Fields, because Justin Fields is also a guy that if he does take off and you miss a couple of tackles, he can take it to the house. He has legitimate top-end speed that he can burn your entire defense. And I think the one way to put it on him, right, is you have to stifle the Steelers' running attack. That's what they want to do. They don't want to put the ball in Justin Fields' hands. No. They just don't. And so far, they've averaged 139 yards per game on the ground. That's a big part of their offense. That's most of their offense for the most part. And I just think that, for me, if you're making Justin Fields throw the ball 30-plus times, you have a great chance of winning this game. It's as simple as that. And I think the best way to get them in that position is just to get them off schedule, right? Get those run stuffs, make them have to throw on some second downs. Don't give them 3rd and 2s where he could just keep it and get it himself. They could run it, they can throw it. If you get them in predictable situations, I think that's going to play into your favor in a huge way against this specific offense. There's some offenses like the Kansas City Chiefs where it doesn't matter if you have them in 3rd and 12, right? To pull something out of their hat. This is not that offense for the most part. Like they are not built for that. So I think if you can do that and get yourself into those, obvious passing situations, it's going to be huge for you. And then in those moments, target the guards. That is who have been the weakest. Each of the guards has allowed 5 pressures through 2 games so far this year. Get Joey Bosa on the inside. Get your edge rushers to collapse the pocket and get things corralled from the outside so that Joey Bosa on the inside or Morgan Fox on the inside or Poona Ford on the inside can wrap things up and he just doesn't have anywhere to go. I think that'd be huge.
It is for sure, and they're going to try to run the ball with Najee Harris, who is their sledgehammer. Like that's their Gus Edwards, but he's their number 1 back. He's the guy that's going to get the lion's share of the carries, and so he has 37 for 139, 3.8 yards per carry, 2.54 yards after contact per attempt. Which hey, he's going to break some tackles. He's a he's a physical runner.
It's honestly not great. I mean, J.K. Dobbins I think is averaging twice as much as that. I don't know. Najee Harris, to me, I've never understood the hype. Jalen Warren, I think, honestly, could be their best running back. But if they could just hand it to Najee Harris 30 times in a game, they would do it. And he is a physical dude that I don't think he's great, but he's going to take 1 or 2 tacklers to bring down, to your point.
Yeah, so as far as like stopping the run early and then forcing Justin Fields to throw the ball, then you want to look at who the targets are that he likes to use and what parts of the football field. And for me, it's short. They're looking for the tight end, Pat Freiermuth. He's only, they've really only attempted 5 passes beyond 10 yards. But for Pat Freiermuth specifically, he has 8 catches on the season. 7 of them have been from 0 to 10 yards, and he has caught all 7 of those passes. So they are going to be looking to throw it short, get the ball out quickly. They're going to be looking for Pat Freiermuth. When they want to make a big play, there's really only one guy that they are looking at, and that, of course, is George Pickens. So for George Pickens, he has 2 of the completed passes beyond 20 yards for this offense for Justin Fields. So when Justin Fields wants to make a big play, he is looking for George Pickens. Those are the 2 guys that you have to worry about and account for in the passing game.
Absolutely. And one of the big reasons the Chargers were able to pull it off against the Raiders and make the Raiders offense look as bad as they did was just because Devontae Adams didn't have a huge game. And I think if you're talking about the receivers on the Steelers, they traded away Deontay Johnson. It's basically just George Pickens. Calvin Austin, it doesn't really scare me. Like, he is the guy. And I think if you can do that again and continue to make it tough for these quarterbacks, especially these below average quarterbacks, to have to not go to their favorite target, it's not going to be good for them. So in those situations, know who you're covering, and I'm sure Jesse Minter's defense will. My last one here, another kind of simple one, but one that I think is very important, and it's just let the Steelers keep kicking field goals. So far, the Steelers have scored the ball 9 times. 8 of those have been field goals. Right? The first game, they won 18-10 against the Falcons. They only kicked field goals. 18-10 win. The Steelers will not win this game kicking only field goals. I truly believe that. And I just think especially, we haven't seen the Chargers tested in the red zone because teams have only had 2 plays inside of the red zone for this entire season. So that's a totally kind of unknown
you heard
commodity.
that correctly.
Yeah, we have no idea what the Chargers look like there. We know that they've been good in short yard situations. We know they've entire Jesse Minter career, even going into the preseason, they were really, really good in short yard situations. They know how to play those. But those 4-point swings in a game like this, where it feels like you're going to have to scratch and claw for every single point, if you can have that 4-point swing where you turn a touchdown into a field goal possession, right? That could be the determining factor in this game. And obviously we've seen they're a team very willing to sit there and kick the field goals. And there's a chance. What if this whole game is entirely field goals? Well, that is one of the bold predictions that we had to get into, because next we're going to put our money where our mouths are, because we're going to pick who is going to win this game and get into the boldest predictions for this one. And so far, we've had one that actually came true last week, Quentin Johnston, multiple touchdowns. And also, we've had, the week before that, we had another really, really close one. So we're getting into all of our boldest predictions and much more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys about Prize Picks because Prize Picks is the only way to play daily fantasy sports. It's the number one daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in, and they're going to give you one. Because right now, one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you one win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. Another great thing about Prize Picks is you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. For this weekend's game, you can go with Justin Herbert throwing for more than or less than 178.5 passing yards and pair that with J.K. Dobbins rushing for more or less than 54.5 yards. All you have to do, download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, David, I have loved so much being able to do these and get the fans involved, and so much, so far it's really paid off. We've had some really, really great bold predictions from the fan, and I have to shout out Ada's Woke last week for saying Quentin Johnston will have his first 2-touchdown game, and of course, he went on to have his first 2-touchdown game after having 2 all of 2023. So let's get into today's set of bold predictions, and I think there's a couple that can happen again, but thank you guys for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure you guys check out the new lineup on the new Locked On NFL with 2 shows, 2 hosts. You have the madman Tyler Rowland in the morning giving you a true double shot of NFL espresso, and you can hang out in the barbershop with my boy Tony Wiggins giving you real down-to-earth football talk like you want, and they always are getting on the local experts who are covering their team every day. So check them out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from. But David, this first bold prediction is funny because it doesn't seem like it's that kind of far-fetched. This one here is from Jackson, who says, there will be no touchdown scored in this game. It'll be a good old-fashioned slugfest. Cameron Dicker and Chris Boswell, will be the leading scorers. Give me Chargers 15, Steelers 9. Well, David, the funny thing is we've already seen the Steelers go an entire game without scoring a touchdown and only kicking field goals. It doesn't seem like in this kind of matchup between the 2 best defenses in the league so far that this is that far-fetched, honestly.
No, it's not. It's not. I hope that's not what we see. I mean,
I hope
would be a really, really boring football game. And to be quite honest, I don't expect that to happen. I think the Chargers will score a touchdown or 2. I do expect that they will get into the end zone. They have shown that they will have the ability to do so, obviously not against a defense of this caliber. That's why this is such a true litmus test for this Chargers team in general, offensively and defensively. But I just can't imagine them not being able to punch it into the end zone.
I mean, crazier things have happened. Give me Cameron Dicker versus any kicker any day. If it turns into a battle of kickers, I like the Chargers' chances. But let's get to this one here from Brandon Yabko, who says, the Chargers will gain the respect they deserve by beating the Steelers by double digits this week and then send shockwaves around the NFL by beating the Chiefs next week. So I'm going to sell the Chiefs part for now. We'll get to the Chiefs when we get to the Chiefs. But I like the other part, David, because I do think if the Chargers win a 20-10 game, like that doesn't seem that, crazy. That doesn't seem super out of pocket for them to do that. It seems like a realistic score this could be, even as 1.5 point favorites. And I do think the ramifications of that would be a lot more people's interest getting piqued, a lot of ears perking up around the league. Like, okay, maybe this is a team that is actually one to be trifled with, because wins against the Raiders and the Panthers aren't going to do that. Going 3-0 and having that last one be against a good Steelers team, that might get it done.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people right now that are like, okay, the Chargers have looked a lot better through 2 games. I mean, they're a team that seems like they have some kind of an identity now, but they played the Raiders and they played the Panthers. Big whoop, big deal. But the Steelers, that's a completely different conversation. That's a legitimate team that has had a physical identity, that has not had a losing season in 10 plus years. So if they beat the Steelers, that is definitely a wake-up call for a lot of people out there that I think have been sleeping on the Chargers a little bit, and understandably so. There's been a lot of newness, a lot of change for this organization, but this is the type of win that would open up a lot of eyes.
I think it would, and I still think that even if they beat the Steelers, which would be crazy, and it would be their first 3-0 start since 2002. That's crazy. I mean, it's nuts that it's been that long. But I still think a lot of people would say, hey, show me against the Chiefs. Because the thing is, if you go beat the Steelers and then you know, get your butt kicked by the Chiefs, it's that feeling is going to go away pretty quickly, right?
That's all I want for my birthday, Daniel, is them beating
yeah.
the Chiefs. My birthday is the day after that game, so I would want nothing more than to enjoy talking about the Chargers beating the Chiefs in front of the world.
Obviously, but I mean, I think that, that's David's birthday wish every single year is the Chargers getting win.
Is.
But I'm sure another guy also does the same thing on his birthday every year when he blows out his candles. It's Athir who's calling it today with another bold prediction.
Dan, David, this is your baby Athir. My bold prediction for Sunday, that Chargers will surprise the Steelers and come out throwing the football. My bold prediction will be Herbert will go for 277 yards and 3 passing touchdowns, 2 of them to Ladd McConkey. Chargers win 24-14. Let's go.
Well, I know, Theo, this is definitely a little bit mild for you. I mean, I think you had 3 defensive scores last week, which is about as bold as it could possibly get. But, David, I've seen a lot of this in the bold predictions. A lot of people guessing Herbo stat lines. A lot of people saying, hey, maybe Herbo goes for 300, 350, 277 in this case. We already talked about Ladd McConkey. I love that. Get Ladd McConkey involved. Feed Ladd McConkey. But, David, what if it is like that, right? I mean, maybe this is the game where the offensive passing attack finally breaks through and we see a big game from Justin Herbert, one like we've seen so many times from him.
We have seen that a lot of times from Justin Herbert, and we've seen that recipe, and it hasn't unfortunately led to a lot of success. I do, however, would love to see the Chargers get the ball to Ladidi McConkey. Right, that's definitely the guy we want to see. I don't know if I expect to see that here against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Their defense is legit. They have playmakers from the top, middle, and obviously on the line at all 3 levels of the defense. So it's going to be a challenge. I do think that the Chargers are going to have to be multidimensional on offense, right? That's something we've talked about. They got to be able to throw it. They're going to have to be able to run it. It's going to have to be a mix of both in this one.
Absolutely. And the sucky thing about this is Justin Herbert being banged up, because it would be a great game for him to use his legs. And we saw it the last time that these teams played each other. The only time Justin Herbert played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he went absolutely bananas. He threw for 382 yards and rushed for another 90. 90
Wild.
Being the most rushing yards by a quarterback in a single game, which is basically the Justin Herbert list of quarterback rushing, because he has 3 of the top 4 performances in his career as far as rushing yards by a Chargers quarterback. And I think 3rd was Easton Stick in a game last year. But it just feels like a game where there's going to just be plays where there's nothing out there for him initially, right? And he might have to do it himself, which is what happened the last time these two teams played, and the Chargers, went crazy and scored a bunch of points, and they ended up winning that game. But I do think, for Justin Herbert, if it was this game to blow up, I mean, we've seen him do it against this team before. We've seen him do it against good defenses before. I hope it happens for sure. Yeah. Let's get to our own bold predictions, David. I'll start here. I think it's a vintage Derwin James game in this one. I think that this is the kind of matchups that Derwin James gets up for. I think we've seen him be a little bit down in production, at least as far as the flashy plays. It's okay if you have Derwin too. It feels like a Derwin James kind of a game.
It does.
His kid is on the trip with him in Charlotte right now, making the trip to Pittsburgh. I have Derwin James, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and an interception in this one, a vintage performance.
That's pretty much almost exactly what mine was. Just great minds think alike here. I had 10 tackles, a pick, and a sack for Derwin James. It just feels like this is the type of player who gets up for the big games. He wants to be on the spotlight. He wants to make a statement. He wants to show everybody that he is one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. So that's what I see. I see Derwin James establishing himself, saying, hey, I'm still here and I'm still the man.
And I think when you have I think you'll get some matchups with Pat Freiermuth for sure. I think you like a guy like Deion Henley in those matchups underneath now, though, too. And I think when you're talking about a quarterback in Justin Fields, one of the ways we've seen the Chargers combat that in the past, send your most athletic edge rusher after them, and their most athletic edge rusher is a safety named Derwin James. So I think it's a great game to have Derwin James on the edge. We haven't seen it translate in only 6 pass rushing snaps so far this year, but although he could be back this week, you feel great about what Elijah Molden can do on the back end. I think you could have a good chance of seeing Derwin James up near the line of scrimmage, trying to get into the backfield and sending a sure tackler that has the kind of athleticism to bring down someone like a Justin Fields, who is just a super athlete for the position. I think that'll work well. David, let's get to our game predictions now. I know that I feel like you have to pick them to win this one. What do you think's going to happen?
I am going to pick them to win this one. The Chargers have the better defense. They have the better running game. And most importantly, they have the better quarterback. So
Yeah.
I have them beating the Steelers. I do think it is going to be a lower scoring contest here. I'm going to go with 17-6. I have the Chargers beating the Steelers 17-6.
Hey, that's a double-digit win. I mean, yeah, it just doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility for Jesse Minter's defense. I mean, but it also feels like the Chargers offense, if they get stuck in the kind of rut they did in week 1 where they penalize themselves, that'll be another key for them, right? Got to be clean. You can't hurt yourself against a defense this good. You just absolutely
no turnovers.
Can't. No turnovers, no penalties. Don't get yourself behind the sticks in those obvious passing situations and put your offensive line in a bad spot. All of those things. To me, this feels like a bar fight. Feels like the games the Chargers have had against the Steelers in the past. Feels like the games the Chargers have had against the Titans in the past, where it's just like it's going to be dragged down, knockout, right? And I think that for me, the Chargers win a close one. I have Chargers 20. They get to that golden number for me. Steelers 16 in this one, having to settle for a lot of field goals. So that's how I have it. Chargers 3-0 start. And that would be a hell of a show to bring on Sunday night, David, for that live post-game recap. And we hope you guys are there with us. And to make sure that you are, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you to everyone who hit us up with their bold predictions at Locked On LAC on Twitter. You can find the show every day as well. And hitting us up on the voicemail line at 323-524-7924. You can also find the show every day on our other social media at Locked On Chargers on Instagram and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page, as well as our personal accounts for me at Dan Talk Sports and David Drotalk SD on Twitter as well. But make a statement. Bully the bullies. Get off to your first 3-0 start. Show that things are different now and show that you are now the new physical kid in town that's ready to take people's lunch money. I hope they can do it on Sunday, and I hope you guys are back with us for the live show on Sunday night. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.